I had high hopes for Red Joan, I have to say, and unfortunately I came away from our local multiplex feeling quite disappointed. It didn't quite rise to the challenge. Red Joan stars Judi Dench and Sophie Cookson, who both play the fictional Joan Stanley at different times of her life, with Tom Hughes as Leo, Tereza Srbova as Sonya, and Stephen Campbell Moore as Max. It's directed by the highly acclaimed British theatre director Sir Trevor Nunn, and has got a screenplay that's adapted from Jennie Rooney's 2013 novel by Lindsay Shapero. Red Joan is produced by David Parfitt, whose credits include Shakespeare in Love from 1998, for which he won the Oscar for Best Picture. So what is Red Joan all about? It's loosely inspired by the real-life case of Melita Norwood, a British science researcher who was exposed in 1999 as a spy who'd given away secrets to Russia back in the 1940s. The film opens in a quiet, leafy English village with Joan Stanley patiently tending to her garden. A bang on the front door and the arrival of MI5 officers shake her out of her cosy retirement. She's taken into custody, charged with multiple counts of espionage. The film then flits back and forth from the present day to initially Cambridge University in the 1930s, where a young Joan, played by Sophie Cookson, is studying physics. From our first meeting of Joan, we see a kind of flighty, rather naive young woman who's rather obviously ensnared by two equally obvious and clumsily manipulative communists. Quite remarkably, Joan falls in love with the leader of these communists, Leo, an extremely unattractive Russian saboteur who's played by Tom Hughes. He launches into an unconvincing pro-Russian speech in the university quad, and later lets rip with a rather childish pro-Stalin rant at the Communist Party's film night. I didn't feel any sympathy for any of the main characters, in fact, whose actions became completely unbelievable at times. Joan is meant to be a first-class physics student, bright, intelligent, having made it to university against all the odds. She's meant to have an inquisitive mind, a scientist's analysis of her surroundings, and yet we're meant to accept that she falls in love with this rather hollow character. Throughout, the script seemed to lack subtlety, with short bursts of exposition, quickly telling, rather than showing, in a way that's intended to kind of nudge the story along and close enormous holes in the plot. Later, Sonya, that's Leo's communist controller, she disappears from the story completely. We get a line suggesting that she's gone to Switzerland. Oh right, thanks for telling us. The cliched writing encourages us to try and accept that this bright young physicist would see the post-war world as a kind of unjust place, where Russia, gripped by the mass-murdering Joseph Stalin, was being unfairly squeezed out of the arms race because the West hadn't shared enough of their scientific discoveries. And yet Joan decides to smuggle out documents for the totally implausible Leo and Sonya because she unilaterally decides to readdress the imbalance in the arms race and in doing so protect the freedom of the entire world. There's no doubting Trevor Nunn's outstanding ability as a theatre director, but I felt at times, though, the film was being placed in front of us with a rather matter-of-fact style of direction. Having said that, I felt that the costume and production design was excellent, creating a strong visualisation that captured the essence of the era, all of which was supported by a great musical score by George Fenton. Sophie Cookson was a warm and engaging presence on screen, I thought, a truly talented actress. The shortcomings we see in her role are kind of driven by the weakness of the character that she was asked to play. And as for Dame Judi Dench, she's been at the top of her profession for over 60 years. I felt the character of older Joan was weak and incidental in the telling of the story. There was so much we could have discovered about Joan's motivations, the emotional impact of her actions on her and her family, not just at the time, but when she was exposed and vilified in public. Instead, all she was given were brief scenes that didn't really go anywhere and certainly didn't tap into her immense talent. All in all, I found Red Joan to be a naive film with an idealised stance on betrayal, told through a lackluster script that was rather patronising in its depiction of the final weeks of the war and the complexities of the post-war world. Visually, the film was great, with a talented cast, but unfortunately they were not given the room or the material to truly shine. It's a real shame. It's a compelling concept, but with too many missed opportunities, it didn't quite come through. So as for a rating, well, unfortunately for me, it's only 2 stars out of 5. It's a real shame. I really wanted this to be a huge success. All the ingredients were there. It didn't come through in the end. So alas, it's only 2 stars. So there we are. Whether you're into the latest releases or prefer to go behind the scenes with some of our greatest filmmakers, please do subscribe to our channel. We post new videos every week, so there's always plenty to see. Here's a couple more from Rabbit and Snail that you might want to check out. Thanks for watching. See you next time.